Welcome back, everybody. Today I'll be wrapping up the Greek portion of the campaign with one of the worst missions in the game. Although it can be fun for a first-timer, the utter lack of challenge makes it dull from the second play onward.
It'll take a lifetime to tunnel through this.
The Cyclops said there were other ways into the underworld. That means there are other ways out.
This cinematic is nothing special either, although I do like Chiron's upcoming voice acting.
Shades, the dead. We are strangers to this realm, but they know it well. They can show us the way out of this place.
That's about it for story until the end. The rest is just a hike through Erebus. It's a 20-minute slog of unlosable battles against myth units from here on out. That green thing flying by is a harpy, but they're just scenery like the birds that fly around outside. The heroes can't see very far this mission, but these shades that we get can, so they'll be our main scouts. I'll fight this Minotaur because he's technically a mission objective, but killing him, like all the other monsters, is completely optional and pointless. I only need one shade to scout because they're invincible, but the spare ones I find can be sacrificed to instant kill myth units. Not that I really need that either. The most difficult obstacles on this mission are the tendency of my own units to block each other and the random fences across our path. Truly, challenges worthy of legendary heroes and my tactical genius. Since some of these wadjets are physically blocking access to the fence, I suppose I'll have to kill a couple of them before I can move on. This mission does have some nice scenery and decorations to look at, such as these boats going by on what seems to be the river Styx. I can't say they didn't put strong effort into making this mission look good. If I had been bothering to use my human soldiers, all these Medusae and Cyclops would instant kill every one of them. Plus they would get in the way and thus do more harm than good as I take down the fences. By the way, shades in-game are nothing like these ones, so we're not even really learning about a new unit type here. Normal shades are exclusive to Hades players, who have a 1/5 chance to get a free one whenever their human soldiers die. They're weak, generic melee units. Their only noteworthy feature is that myth unit specials don't work on them. Oh, and in case it wasn't clear, this mission's shades can't attack buildings, which is why I'm not using them to take down the fences. Anyway, the only mission objective is to pick up these 3 relics that are lying in the middle of our nature trail here and carry them to the endpoint. Each one grants us a god power. But out of the dozens and dozens of options, they chose to give us the exact same boring 4 we've had for almost every mission up till now. Oh, one trick that helps this mission is to order your guys to move past the fences before attacking. That ensures they all press in close first and don't leave Chiron trapped behind. That's about it for strategy, really. Move in before the monsters get them. Tear down this next fence and we're pretty much home free. They do throw a good variety of myth units at you, but since not one of them is a threat to your heroes, it doesn't really matter. Mummies are a lot like Medusae, but they're better because they're 1, cheaper, and 2, their special attack that instant kills also spawns an undead minion from the corpse. That's the last fence we'll see for a while. Now for a change of pace, I'll run through this swamp ignoring crocodiles instead of ignoring myth units. The second relic is coming up. Besides being god powers we've seen 10 times already, these ones are fairly useless on this mission too. Like bronze only works on human soldiers, but the human soldiers are worthless here. Restoration further trivializes this mission. Even if your heroes did somehow get injured, you could just heal them up with that. So this portion is why I don't try to do 0 casualties here. The land portion makes it trivial, but in this section here, you will lose your fleet to these instant killing myth units that'll swarm up around you. We haven't seen Kraken since Mission 1 when they instant killed human soldiers, so they can do the same thing to ships even more easily. I'll use these spare ships as a meat shield, sponging up the instant kills while my transport rushes for the far shore. It's quite easy to just slay the Krakens with focus fire from these archer ships anyway, but that just takes up more time, same as fighting all the other myth units along the path. This is another phase of the mission which they really could have done more with. Alright, now I can forget about my ships. I don't know who these centaurs are, or why they're locked up down here, or why they join us, but we don't need them anyway. Now we've got to slog through a ruined town full of snakes. Again, there's cool scenery and a variety of stuff to look at, but the mission needs some kind of actual challenge to hold it together. Anyway, let me talk about the underworld in Greek mythology. It really was not the kind of fire and brimstone stuff seen in the previous mission. There was one river of fire called the Phlegathon, but it gets less mention than many of the other 4 rivers. The river Styx, which we just crossed, was the most famous. Gods swore oaths upon it, drinking it killed humans, and dipping baby Achilles in is what made his skin invincible. In some versions, the ferryman Charon took the dead across the Styx, and in some versions across the river Acheron instead. There was also the Cocytus, which was totally unimportant. For some reason, Dante decided to name his deepest circle of hell after it. Last was the river Lethe, which made the dead forget their past lives. In the Odyssey, Odysseus' fallen friends and even his own mother don't recognize him until they drink the blood of the goat he sacrificed for them. There was also a rather poignant moment in that trip to the underworld where he tried to hug her but found his arms went right through her. Mythological shades were completely harmless and ghostly like that. Similarly, the whole underworld was most often portrayed as an empty darkness, which is what Erebus means. Nothing really going on. Come to think of it, I suppose that makes this mission quite fitting. Alright, the last relic grants the last god power. Now I just need to take these 3 things to the temples and we win. The ancient Greeks were not very consistent about the underworld. There are several reasons for this, the most obvious of which is that their religion changed a lot over the 1,000 years or so that they existed. Even within one myth though, there are often clear continuity errors. For example, Homer says that Tartarus, the place of punishment for the Titans and a few wicked people, is as far below the underworld as the earth is below the heavens. Yet Odysseus sees people like Sisyphus who are supposed to be in Tartarus mixed among the other dead. Later Greek writers also began to add more pleasant ideas, such as reincarnation, or the idea that great people had a nice afterlife in a place called the Elysian Fields. Now I'm entering the final few seconds of the mission, so I'll use my god powers to speed things up further. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but some god powers such as Lightning Storm prevent all players, including the caster, from using other god powers in the area of effect, or even across the entire map in some cases. One more struggle against silly unit pathing, one more epic battle against offense. I win once I get to that temple. Anyway, this mission is clearly necessary to explain how we get through the underworld, but they should have done a better job with it. Now most RTSs fail at this kind of dungeon mission, but the clearest exception is Warcraft 3, which exceeds brilliantly because their dungeon levels are full of ongoing rewards, like new items and equipment for your heroes. Thus, exploration and fun are encouraged, whereas here there's no reason not to just skip everything, as you just saw. Well, now that that's over with, we have a couple of cinematics coming up. They're not too special, but they're pretty good, and they advance the story at least.
Temples. Arcados. The gods have favored you before. Perhaps one of them will now. If you ask.
We are lucky that one of these honors Poseidon.
Come to think of it, we passed a temple earlier, but just ignored it. The god in the middle is Hades, with his helmet of invisibility. That was made for him by the same Cyclops who made Zeus's lightning bolts and Poseidon's trident.
It is no use. Why does Poseidon not respond?
Perhaps it is another who favors you. What of Zeus?
The helmet works so well that we forget Hades is even an option, and indeed he never really shows up in the campaign. Now remember back when I said the fact we always play as Zeus was going to be an important plot point? Here's the start of that. When the game came out, the staircase putting itself together looked pretty awesome. It hasn't aged all that well, though.
Everyone go! Quickly! Move!
He can't wait to have this mission over with either. I do think it's cool that the underworld is a playable random map. They should have used more mythical locations, really.
We should have opened the first gate to Tartarus. And if you had killed the Atlantean when he came to take the trident back from you, we would have.
What if he escapes the underworld?
What if he does? He isn't going to gather an army and bring it to Egypt before I've let the old one out.
What of the Egyptian gods?
Only Osiris would stand against us. And Kemsit claims Set has seen to him.
Excellent. If Arkantos does manage to escape Erebus, he will not escape me again.
He had better not. Poseidon wishes his sons return to power. No man from Atlantis will stop this.
I think they spoiled more of the upcoming Egypt plot than they needed to, but at least they got it set up. Well, I speedran this mission in 5 minutes. Next up is the much better opening chapter of the Egypt campaign. Have a great day, everyone!